Why don't you do me a favor, introduce yourself to any of the listeners, because some people will know who you are, some people will know who your company is, but for others that don't, why don't you just start at the beginning?
All right, my name is Charles McCarthy with Suffolk Construction. Suffolk Construction is headquartered in Boston. We're relatively new to the data center industry. We've been kind of plugging away at it for 6 years. So, we're in the beginning of our 7th year now.
How long have you been at Suffolk?
I've been at Suffolk 7 years. I went there to kind of start the group.
The Mission Critical Group?
The Mission Critical Group.
Well, man, that's a lot of cool shit to unpack, is because now you're talking about stuff that I really like, but your background's military as well, isn't it?
Right. I was a former Navy.
Okay.
Had
Well,
a
then
great
go all
career.
the way back to the beginning. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Massachusetts. I grew up in a city called Worcester, which is about 40 miles west of Boston.
Sure.
And
I used to stop there. I was stationed in New London, Connecticut, and would always have a stop in Worcester.
Oh, really? Yeah. So right out of high school, I went to the Naval Academy.
Okay.
Down in Annapolis.
What year did you graduate?
I would have been class of 93. I got hurt. I was a lacrosse player.
Okay.
I had a little lacrosse accident. So
class of 94.
I got medicaled, and then I had to transfer out. And then I went to Johns Hopkins for my undergrad.
Okay.
Played a little lacrosse there.
What was the injury? Just curious. Like,
it broke my 2 cheeks and nose. I had a stick across the face. Yeah.
Like,
the helmets were a lot different now. Now they have kind of a return that comes back under the chin. I'm a little
such
older,
an aggressive sport too. And obviously, I was doing the Super SEAL one year out in Coronado, and like that little Goggins shack was up, and I remember the demographic studies that he was doing, and he's like, well, the highest graduation rate from buds comes from water polo players, but the highest volume of people are from wrestlers. He goes, but I was surprised to see how much lacrosse is up there too. And I've never played it, but I did know it was a really, really kinetic and violent sport, right? And
yeah, it's a pretty physical sport. When I was stationed in the Navy, I was in Coronado, and I actually helped the Coronado high school team
on lacrosse,
with little coaching when I had some free. Didn't have a lot of free time, but was able to help them out a little bit.
So you ended up going to Johns Hopkins, graduated, and then what did you do when you graduated? You get your commission right then? Were you an OCS?
Yeah, when I was waiting for my pipeline to fill, I went to University of Wisconsin. It helped with ROTC. My pipeline opened up, so while I was there, picked up a master's degree at University of Wisconsin. Kind of fell in love with the school there. Huge Badger
Beautiful
fan.
Area.
Madison's a very fun city.
I love that town.
Nice place. Some good people out there, and
good school.
Got really comfortable.
Great
with
engineering school.
Great school. Yeah, good engineering school. A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was unexpected. I didn't know a whole lot about Wisconsin growing up.
So you went and got your master's while you were waiting for ROTC,
I was waiting
for OCS,
for my pipeline to open up, and then served.
So what did you do? I'm sorry. You were in Coronado, so you have a special warfare group?
Yeah, so we worked in the special warfare group, and then when I got out of the military, I kind of needed a little time, like a lot of people do, to kind of decompress.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually went for a year to Texas A&M.
You didn't have enough degrees by then?
I know.
Schools? Jeez.
Yeah, it was actually kind of therapeutic, actually, to be honest with you. You had a lot of things that you have to unpack.
Sure.
From
how long were you in for?
I was in 8 years.
Okay.
So there's a lot. So, kind of went through there, and that gave me a kind of release, to kind of reacclimate to kind of the real world, so to say.
Which is tough, man. I mean, like, we talk about it, but it takes years. It took me a long time. I was a submariner, so I wasn't doing stuff that you were doing. But even then, I took for granted how hard it was going to be.
It's just hard because I think there's no magic bullet, or there's no recipe for it. Everyone's different. Everyone carries in their different experiences, and they carry things differently, handle things differently. I think that's what's so challenging about some of the problems our vets face, is that every situation's unique. So everyone processes things different. Even 2 people that were in the same experience, they handle that differently, and you kind of have to, as you go through that and you go through those struggles, you have to kind of come out of it your own way, and you have to kind of have coaching and mentoring along the way to help you there. But you kind of have to figure out how you're going to overcome some of those issues that,
Did you find support at A&M with your colleagues or peers there that helped you get through that? Or was that just you on an island fighting it out in your own demons?
One of the things when I graduated from Texas, it was a good time to kind of decompress and move on. And I think one of the things that changed my life, and not a plug, but I went to I worked for a company, and they sent us to Grinnell Leadership. And I met a guy named John Grinnell, and he was a kind of career coach. And he just kind of, he had a program. It was a 3-day, like, kind of executive program. And it was a life-changing experience for me because, he said something very poignant that at the time it didn't really make sense, but as I got through, I kind of was able to process it. But it was, kind of, there's a lot of things that happen to people, and they, you can either let the events in your life control you, or you can control them. He has a kind of program. He calls it Ride the Dragon. And so you have to kind of be in charge of that, and you
Was
have
this
to
an
control
executive
that.
coach, or was it to help you break that?
It was an executive coach. So it was just not, the intention was to help with, the transition to the world. It was just something that, it had done with an executive program, and it just happened to, there was just a connection there and a click. And I think that, one of the things that was hard to face is that, when you're dealing with some of the issues you have in military, you think, they're stronger people, but sometimes they kind of get victim. They feel like they're, victim. All this kind of, some of this stuff happened to them, and you have to kind of move past that. And it happened, and you have to be able to deal with it and just move on. And that was very important. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't just an afternoon. It clicked, and but it was the message that you have to be in control of kind of what happened. And
You have to be deliberate and intentional,
right,
at holding yourself accountable to fixing yourself.
Yep.
You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's one of the big things. And, you have to be accountable for what you did, and you are ultimately responsible for righting your ship and making your path. And every choice you make, you can go on the right path or the wrong path.
How did you know to go to A&M, and how did you know to go talk to this executive coach?
I think one of the things that A&M that offered was, pretty conservative school. And so it was kind of, there's a, big
core,
the core cadets, obviously. And there was a lot of, with the Bushes and Column, with, Bush's library there. It was just it was the right environment. It was a good place to transition. So it was it was a great experience.
What did you study there?
Construction management.
So dang. So after you got your master's, you went to A&M and got a construction management degree too?
Construction management degree. Then I went into.
How do you know you want to be a builder?
I think when I came out of the military, wasn't really sure what to do. A lot of the, some of the things that I did, the natural career path was, some of the federal agencies, and wasn't sure what to do. I knew that potentially an office environment wasn't the right environment for me. You needed a little something more dynamic. And so I kind of I had a neighbor, actually, when I was growing up, a kid. He was a general superintendent for Perini Construction out of Boston. And, I was always kind of attracted to the lifestyle that he had. And he was he just loved going to work and enjoyed it. And so that was what really.
It is an awesome job.
When it's great. It's exciting. You get a lot of opportunities to really not only, see what the product of your thought, but you get to build things, and there's a lot of change going on, and the industry is really evolving. I think one of our issues in our industry has been kind of stagnant for a while, and I think that lately, I think they've really embraced change, things with modeling and some of the use of data and analytics right now, and we're really the construction industry is really starting to embrace technology, and I think we're in the middle of kind of revolution, if you will, in the construction industry. It's going to be a very different.
It's modernizing. It's adopting innovation so that it could be more efficient,
right.
And it has no choice, because to use the word that you said dynamic. I say kinetic on those construction sites. I mean, when I worked for an operator, I worked for a few of them. And when I worked for one of them, I ran their whole delivery platform of product, from design, construction, engineering, commissioning. And there was a period there for 5 straight weeks. I was sending someone at one of the 5 sites, or one of the 4 sites, technically 5. Someone was put in an ambulance and going home. And the 3 KPIs that everybody in this industry measures himself on first is safety, then schedule, and then cost. So if I am ahead of schedule by a week and I'm $1 million under budget, but I'm not sending everyone home every night, I got a problem, right? My management team would not be happy with that, right? And nor should they have been. But there's so much tremendous pressure that goes into these programs, and there's so much danger. Safety is a factor on these programs. You agree?
Yeah, I think it is, especially, in the data centers that we're building. I mean, you have not only the hazards of just the construction, but the amount of power that we're bringing into some of these buildings and the concentration that is. I mean, you have to have a really, that's why some of our electricians are some of the most talented builders in the world. I mean, the what they do and the risks that they face every day, and how they do it responsibly. And we talked earlier about that accountability. It's when they're in there, they know they're dealing with some very dangerous stuff,
Very,
but
very
they're
important.
accountable
Yeah.
for it, and they know, and they're responsible. We've got some real amazing electrical,
Yeah.
contractors throughout the country that are really, I think they're really the backbone of this industry. And
Oh yeah, they perform all the trades. I mean, and they're the ones that are shouldering a larger shoulder of the risk.
Mhm.
I mean, only because they're the ones that are connecting wires or connecting pipes. And there's a lot of danger that goes in what they do.
Yeah, and just not only that, operational, but they also have, a lot of the, that's the focal point of a data center is the
Yeah, the
electrical,
MEP,
right?
it's all dense.
So you gotta, they have to, when there's problems, whether it's, safety or engineering problems, I mean, they're gonna realize that. So that competence that they bring is
Well, rewind me one more time though, right? Because I'm all over the place, if you could see. But when you went to A&M and got a construction management degree, did you go right to? I mean, obviously you probably didn't, but you always wanted to go back to Massachusetts. It sounds like. What did you do first upon graduation with that degree?
Yeah, I moved to Washington D.C. with some of the. At the time, they were doing a big, there was a big building program for kind of some of the 3-letter agencies. They were trying to update their data storage, and so it became, with the clearances that I had, it was just a natural segue. And so there was a little bit of just like anything in life, there's a little bit of dumb luck involved.
Mhm.
And so with the clearances that I had, there was some need to go to do a project that was had a data center. It was for one of the 3-letter agencies, and just happened to get in that, and I just fell in love with it. It was just
So your first program out of the gate was data centers.
was
And
data
it's government data centers, which were probably designed Tier 4 back in those days. I'm
Tier 4 back in the day.
Yeah, and that's as intense as they get, those programs.
And it was it was just sheer luck that I got into it, and I just really enjoyed it. And
How long ago was that?
20 years ago.
Okay, so you've been doing this.
You've been doing this a while.
Okay.
One of the things that I really liked about it is that, in our industry is that, some of the trade partners that we get to work with are, they're the best in the business. And some of the folks that that they kind of self-select into the data center market. You're getting you're not getting the
They pick
huckleberry.
their own team. Like they tribe up. They tribe up quick.
Yeah, it's you're getting the best of the best. And so just being surrounded by those, just A players all day long. I mean, just, and some of the teams that are assembled with some of the great GCs in this sector and some of the great trade partners. I mean, there's some real high performing teams here. And that's what's, I think, has really kept me in this sector, is that it's just every day you're surrounded by some of the greatest minds, the greatest
I agree.
companies.
I love this industry.
Partners, owners. I mean, everyone comes to play hard every day. And it's pretty exciting. That's a great place to work. And that's what's, that's why it's so important that we try and attract some talent into our industry. I mean, it's a very dynamic place, and, it's very, it can sell itself. And I think, that's one of the things that we're big on, is that kind of workforce development. I think it's really important for the industry. As there's so many supply challenges now with labor and workforce. It's so we have to kind of sit here and say we have a wonderful product and we can provide a wonderful life and a lot of opportunities, excitement, and challenges for people. And I think we have to really, I don't think we sell that message that well, to be honest with you. I think it's just kind of part of our life, and we do it, and it's just every day. So we don't really understand how unique and how special it is. And I think that's one of the things that we don't do well, because we're so used to this environment. We're in this every day. And, I think we have to really kind of sell that to the outside and say, look,
Yeah, it's
look at all
hard because it's not a very prevalent industry yet. It's
Right.
emerging. So there's not a lot of schools that are sitting around talking about this like they would automotive or finance or healthcare or anything else. And and to that end, the pent up demand for labor is growing, hard right now, and we haven't even begun really seeing the impacts of the adoption rate of
Right.
AI and AR and VR and all the other things that follow. So I think that it's our job to go out to both the veteran communities that we come from, as well as, I mean, I got kids, and I'm adding words from our industry into their lexicon every day so that they could go back and realize, like, oh, if you want to be in finance or HR or those other factors of business, you could still do that. But in this industry, which is explosively growing,
Right.
I mean, this is your first DCAC?
This, I came to one. I think it was the second one that you guys
Oh,
did.
died
So
Gary Busey that year?
Gary
And you came
Busey.
back?
Yeah, came back.
All
Yeah. It
right.
was-
Well, listen, someone asked me, like, what's your favorite story? I'm like, it's not that, right? But you have to understand, like, when we first started doing this, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. I mean, this isn't what we do for a living. When we have day jobs and we build the cloud too, right? So there's sky for the cloud, as they would say. So, but we also knew that the conferences weren't, it was all the same, right? And I always say, the industry didn't need another conference. It needed a better one that had, like, this one is one where, like, in the afternoon, I got Dakota Meyer on stage with me talking about the human side of us professionally, because we're talking about the need for power and supply chain and land constraints and all the things that go with, leases. But at the end of the day, we need a pause, not a pause, but we need to also add to our focus the human being element that is lacking, because people are struggling and the struggle is real for everybody. And some people are still battling, could be the, pending election year, to something to do with another booster shot, to whoever knows the circumstances they're going through at home. But people aren't putting this industry first. They have to put their lives first. And instead of changing that, I'm like, yes, please do. Let's make you healthier, because your output and productivity is going to be more transparent, repeatable, predictable, things that we need to grow an industry and evolve. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's one of the people are so central to this industry. I mean, with the we have the technology, and that's very important. But at the basic building block, the construction industry is the people, and it's that's what I think makes this industry so unique and so attractive. It's all the challenges that we have. You look at the good projects you've had, the ones that are not so tough. It's those people challenges that are the things that separate the good projects from the bad projects. And people are so central in taking them. And as the world becomes more complicated, people have different challenges and bigger challenges. And I think it's really important that we have to, we have an obligation as for all the folks that work for us. We really have an obligation to make sure that we take care of their families, because they are part of our family, and they're extended, their wives and their children and husbands and
It's not common.
spouses make so many
That's a military
sacrifices.
version of it, because, leaders eat last, Sun Tzu's famous quote on how to take care of your people and why it's so important to do it. The king of the art of war.
Right.
My thing is, what you're talking about is intuitive to us, because we come from an environment where, we took oaths to protect and defend each other up into and including the cost of our own lives. And when you do that, putting others first isn't a challenge. Are you seeing that is something that has given you guys a greater advantage at Suffolk, because you're leading from caring about the whole person and not just, the whole person, including with the things that impact them, like their families?
We have core values at Suffolk, and they took a couple decades to discover. When the company was started, obviously I wasn't there, but I think that's part of that journey that you go on, is you discover what's really important to you. And one of our core values is caring, and I think it's one of the most important core values that you can have, because it's all encompassing. It's caring about not only what you do, your pride in your work, but it's also just caring about the people that work with you, making sure, that they're taken care of, that their lives are good, that they have the challenges that they need, that they have the career advancement that they need, that they're well cared for, they're compensated, they can take care of their families. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are doing. Whatever they do for work, they're doing it to take care of their families. And so I think that caring is probably one of the most important core values. And our CEO John Fish is just really emphasized that, and he demonstrates that every day. And it's kind of that is kind of intoxicating to everyone, and it's contagious, and it just spreads throughout the company.
I want to hear more about that and him and his philosophy. But what I want to do is, because I'll be honest, I didn't know of that company until Kyle went there.
Right.
And a lot of us have met Kyle or know Kyle, and we started paying more attention. Like, who is this group and what are they doing? And I'm excited to have this opportunity to sit down with you. I appreciate all the support you've given. It sounds like you came to a show, and reluctantly, I don't blame you, but it sounds like you're involved with it again. I appreciate
Right.
you giving us a second chance. As you can tell, we're trying to take it a little bit more serious now with the content that
Yeah.
we're creating, the guests that we have. But I would say, take me from the time where you started your first data center, whether it was a government one, and which GC were you with, and then how you arrived to Suffolk. Like, why did you go there? And what is it that Suffolk's trying to do? So that's a 3-dimensional question I just asked you, but break it into pieces. Like, you got into data centers and you arrived at a part where the intensity or the density of MEP was enough that we're like, this is a real challenge. This is a meaningful program because this is hard. And no two data centers are the same.
Right.
Regardless of how homogenous, an electrical permutation or the limitations on the mechanical side, there's only every data center is different.
Every project's unique.
So what are some of the GCs you've worked for before you got to where you're at, and what made you pick Suffolk?
So I worked for Clark, DPR, Mortensen.
Okay, so you worked for some of the big box shops too.
In
Did you know
Suffolk.
Kyle?
Yeah, I knew. So Kyle, I met Kyle when I was at DPR. We worked on a big project out in Utah, the Utah Data Center. And so that's when Kyle worked for me, and
that's right. A lot of people on that program.
And that's when we so Kyle's been with me, but just been we have not only a great professional relationship, but a real good friendship. We've been friends, for couple decades now almost, and
that's cool.
And it's just and we've always kind of had similar moral compasses and just work ethics, and so our paths have always crossed. And when I was starting this group at Suffolk, Kyle was one of the first people I wanted to bring on board.
What made you go there, and how long ago was that? 7 years.
So about 6.5 years ago, I went to Suffolk, and I think there was just an opportunity. So in this industry, you travel a lot, especially in the mission critical realm. So, my wife, she's from Rhode Island. I'm from Massachusetts. Ironically, we met in San Diego when I was in the Navy, but we grew up about 20 miles apart. And so she wanted to get back home. And so there was an opportunity to come back home. And I was looking for that opportunity. Boston's not a hub of data center activity. Yeah. So, she wanted to be home, and I found an opportunity with Suffolk. Very entrepreneurial. They're kind of cutting edge. Always.
Tell me a little bit about Suffolk.
So Suffolk is we've been around. We just celebrated our 40th year. John Fish, a single shareholder, he started the company. His dad gave him a little bit of money back when he finished college to start a company, and he's been able to turn it into, through his leadership and drive. He's one of the most driven and caring people I've ever met. It's kind of an honor to work for him. He's just amazing, just a fascinating guy. And some of the things that he was a dyslexic, and he was able to overcome that. And he's overcome that through a lot of hard work and, his dedication to what he's doing. And, he now has a $6 billion construction company that keeps growing and growing. And, 10 offices, up and down the East Coast, West Coast, Florida, Texas.
Do you guys work all throughout the United States?
We work all throughout the United States, and we have our regional offices. Then we have 4 centers of excellence, mission critical being one of them. But we have an airport group, a casino group for gaming, and then we have a government group that's just being formed, just starting. So he's
What's the percentage of work? What's the lion's share of it? Is it airports, gaming, data centers?
It's pretty diverse. So our group, represents, where our revenue is going to approach $1 billion this year. So, we're a sixth of that, but it's pretty evenly distributed. Obviously that's by design. In our economy, some sectors are up, some sectors are down. And so it's always good to have that diversification, that balance, whether it be geographic or in different market sectors. I think it's very important. So, that's where the centers of excellence came about. They're fairly new. When the mission critical one was the first one we started, and we've kind of grown, and now we've built a structure around that,
nice.
To kind of, take some of the successes and the lessons learned that we had as we started the mission critical group and apply that to some of those other sectors. And we have the centers of excellence because each of those 4 areas are pretty unique in how they have a very unique market and clients, and so they kind of have some special processes, each of them, with the airports, gaming, and mission critical government. So that's why they kind of set them
Each
off.
center of excellence has its own quarterback too. I guess you're the mission
Yeah.
critical.
So I run the mission critical group, and then we have my counterparts run each of those respective groups, and they kind of align. They're kind of on the same plane as the regional offices, and we collaborate with the regional offices when those, their geographies and our sectors kind of overlap. They overlap.
Yeah, it's normal.
That's natural. They kind of combine, and we have mixed staffs that come in and support those jobs, and it's really just about the health of the company and trying to make those decisions what's best. So
What are you, 40-year-old GC, 7-year practice leader at Suffolk? What are some of the trends you're seeing in the way? What are you seeing in our industry? Not means and methods, materials that we're changing into, blocks. I mean, what is it, the things that are surprising you that you're seeing, and some of the things that you saw coming?
I think one of the things that really attracted me to Suffolk was the way they embraced technology. And not just technology for technology's sake, but they really got into data. I think there's about 20 data scientists on board that do analytics. And so we're measuring everything. John made a pretty significant investment in trying to create a clean data lake. So we've taken all the projects that they've done throughout their 40-year history, broken down the data, and we're able to kind of clean that out, and use that. We have dashboards that we use to kind of monitor the health of our projects. So we're using the information kind of not very dissimilar to AI, but we're using the information that we've had learned over 40 years and trying to replicate that. So we're able to see that in the past, when these financial indicators are happening or when these safety things are going on, it usually results in an accident, or usually results in a financial, when you're we just measure everything, receivables, our bills when they're due, how long it's taken to get change orders approved. Because as we've looked and done the research on it, we've shown that there's certain trends that are very predictable. And so we kind of use those metrics to help guide the decisions. And it doesn't replace the experience. Obviously, that's so important in this industry, as people and their experiences are so central to, but it really gives you an indicator to kind of, we take that data and it feeds back to a dashboard where we're able to kind of look at and see some of the health of the project in a really quick, you can look at your dashboard in 10 seconds, see where some of these trends might be headed the wrong way or a good way. And then you're able to kind of dig into that, use the data that you have and drill into that issue. But it's really, it gives us an opportunity to look at the leading indicators of problems based on
It's so
our
crazy
historic
because most groups
trends.
don't do that. I mean, general contractors and construction management groups aren't known for that innovation and technology. They're known for being the byproduct of it. Like,
Right.
we build the sky for the cloud, but we don't necessarily use it all the time. We're builders, right? And the truth is they're becoming, I'm watching teams, even all the way down to the trades, becoming way more sophisticated. And now there's enough of us that have been around for a bit where they're armed. Some of those
Right.
subcontractors are armed to the teeth, and they've learned, like what it sounds like you're describing, is most GCs aren't taking the time to understand their numbers. That's the dashboard. This is the
Right.
numbers. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. You don't know what's working and what's not. So you're like, hey, we need to pivot. And you're like, well, why? How do you know? How do you know that that's the right way to pivot towards, right? Sounds like you work for a shop that is progressive enough that they realize you can't get ahead unless you understand how you can even break even. And to
Right.
do that, you have to have those dashboards.
Yeah.
Technology is critical for our growth.
Yeah, and I think that data is so important because it and it's pushed all the way through the whole entire company. It's not just the executives are sitting up there pulling our strings and looking at the dashboards. This is at the project level. The superintendents, the project managers, the assistant project managers are always there. Certainly a source of that data through what they do, with their submittals, RFIs, and pay applications, and all the things that they input and we collect. But they really have to process that and understand that, and really, and it's amazing when you look at some of this data, you see how the interrelations between, pay applications and submittal. It's just amazing how you see this real web of how everything is interconnected, and when you have it's just like an ecosystem. When something's not broken over here, the whole machine comes to a halt, and you can really see that. And I think it's just a really great opportunity. One of the things, it not only makes the company healthy, but it really gives us an opportunity to serve the clients better, to really, we can customize dashboards to see the information that they want and how they process it. Everyone looks at things a little different. Everyone has different metrics.
Most people don't. I disagree. Most people are all about doing the same as everyone else. They just want to do it better.
Right.
Yeah. People that are trying to go different are the ones that are the outliers that are making the difference. Right. So let's pause on those things, because I want to spend a couple more minutes letting the listeners know more about Suffolk and why, they should call you, because of your, not your limitations, but your capabilities to, in multiple markets. But I also want them to know you, the man that is responsible for, they may not deal with you, but they're going to deal with your team, and they're going to understand maybe a little bit more about you. And that comes from, maybe sharing one of the best stories you have about when you've been in Suffolk. What's the coolest project you built since you've been there? What's your favorite project?
I think projects are always exciting, but I think, the best stories are the people. The projects are exciting, and that's part of what we do. But I think, at the end of the day, the thing that draws me into the industry and the thing that draws me to Suffolk is the people, the dedication that they have. We've as we were starting our group, we were kind of the new kids on the block, and it was not everyone.
It's tough.
Not everyone wanted to give you a chance.
Yeah,
and
it's tough being new.
And so we were pulling in some folks that some of the friends and relationships that I had over the past were able to pull those people in, like, folks like Kyle and Dan Russell, that I've worked with in the past, and Todd Blair. And we were, so that was our starting point. But then we had to go to some of these kind of remote areas, and we were really, bringing people in that really, they hadn't found construction. Construction kind of found them. So we were pulling people that were living in agricultural communities and bringing them on board.
That's always some of the best people, because they have no limitation to the construct of that industry. So they're from the outside looking in without any limitations.
There's no prejudice, no bias, and they just come in. And it's about hard work, and their minds are open to just take everything in and learn. It's been pretty remarkable. I think, some of the stories, the mentorship, as you're in these traveling groups that we have a lot of people that are starting their careers and people that are ending their careers, because the kind of people in the middle of their careers, they're less likely to travel. And so you just see some of the things that I see with the reverse mentoring, and some of the, old seasoned veterans that have been around for decades building, taking some of the newer folks in the industry under their wing and kind of showing them how it's going. And some of those younger people teaching the folks that have been around for a while, some of the technology, how to harness it, how to use it, how to be more effective at what they do. And that's one of the things that really excites me when you go to some of the sites and you see that, transfer of skills and transfer of everyone brings different passion into it. The old superintendents that are they just love building. You got some of and
they love teaching. I love those. Yeah, those supers have it all. They're worth their weight in gold, because they've built. They're almost like the senior NCOs. They're the Master Chiefs.
Yeah, they're the lifeblood. They
run
make the machine go.
They run the field. Yep.
They make the machine go. And when you have one of those strong superintendents on your job, it's just a different.
Yeah. We all started from somewhere in this space, and it's the supers that we're teaching. Not the PMs. Right. The supers, the general foreman. They were the ones that were making sure that the things that mattered most was getting poured into my ear holes. You know what I'm saying? And that's important for me.
Yeah.
What would be like, because we're going to be bringing this home in a few minutes, this podcast, but second DCAC that you've been to better than the second one?
Yeah, this is
better than the first.
Yeah, it's different. It's they're two different. I think the DCAC, it's a wonderful you got some really great speakers, a great lineup. I think it's changed. I think it's one of the things that I love about this conference and what we're talking about today, and some of the content that we have, is just it's realizing outside of, you can only hear about liquid cooled servers so many times.
No,
And
but
then
there's some cool shit you could drop on it, but I don't need to hear about it all the time.
but then you can, I think some of the, some of the things we're talking about though, about the people, the leadership, and I think that's different. You don't hear a lot about that. And those are some of the, I think some of the greatest challenges that we have are the people challenges. And I think that there's just a very clear understanding here that that's so important, and not just attracting people to the industry, but taking care of them, the health and the leadership that they need, their skill development. I think that's so important. You see a lot of, some really good content here that goes outside of the norm. So I think, mission accomplished, you look to build a better conference. I think you've done that. And, my team's been coming here for a couple of years. I've been tied up. I couldn't come last year or the year before,
He's
but
like, I'm not getting Gary Busey again.
but I'll be a regular customer now. I just enjoyed it. My team has had a great time out here. They've,
Nice.
It's
Tons of networking.
It's a fun environment, networking, and just being surrounded by some of the great people that come here from all the different companies, companies that we compete with, companies that we haven't heard of before. It's just it's a really great experience. And, and the thing that's nice about this conference is you can have the technical conversations with folks. You can have the conversations in the bars and the social and the golf. And there's just a lot of opportunities to meet different people and see them in a social setting, see them at their technical best. And it's interesting. And that's when you really get that real flavor for some of the wonderful people that are in this industry and in this sector in particular, because you get to see them at so many different levels. And it's there's some really good people here that's why we do this, right?
I love it.
All of the people. So.
Listen, I normally finish this, and I always have one last question for everybody, because I'm always fascinated what people tell everyone. And hopefully this is just the beginning of this relationship where we get the opportunity to sit down more over the course of the year going into the next DCAC. But there's a lot of new relationships that hopefully originate from these types of engagements, right? Not just for you and I, but hopefully there will be people, I think, that are going to be watching this podcast that will know how to engage with you differently now, because they know more about you. And they're like, look, I need stuff. Like we need a better GC partner. And they're going to know how to get a hold of you. But like, my last question for you before we drop the mic is, what do you tell people you do for a living?
I tell people where I work for Suffolk Construction, but that, I tell people that, I help people build their careers and themselves. And I think that's really, really, really important. I'm kind of removed from the day-to-day of the building of the buildings. And I think, really what we're growing as people now, and giving them the opportunities to showcase their talents and improve those talents. And I think that's my job and my obligation. And that's when I decided to kind of take this group and create it. It's to get, the revenue for the company obviously is important, but to really build
people,
to build people's careers and build their lives. And we have a program at Suffolk called Suffolk Cares, and, most of our employees contribute money to that. And we use that money to help people that have different crises and challenges in their life, whether they're medical issues or financial issues. And some of the stories, they're really touching. I mean, we have a couple golf tournaments a year where we raise money for that, but it's, and you see when some of those stories and you get some of the impacts that those dollars have to help some of these people, you see how far reaching
you change their lives
the people are, and into our community, how far into the communities. And it's really amazing. I think that's why we do this,
I agree. That's why I do it.
People. So
it's for people. Well, listen, I appreciate you giving us a second chance on the conference. So thank you for coming to DCAC Live again. And thank you for joining the data center revolution. So like I said, I hope that this is just the beginning of a continuous dialogue that we have to have, because what you are passionate about, turns out it's the thing that I'm most passionate about too. And it's people, right? I mean, I love building data centers, but not as much as I love building people.
Yeah. Building people is what we do it for. And, thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting me in Suffolk Construction. And, this is a wonderful conference, and just to see the evolution of this conference this is your 8th one, right? So
Seventh,
it's just amazing.
7th conference.
7th.
We're growing up. We'll get there. I got some really strong professionals that are here now, and they're going to take off, and they're going to pick up where I left off and make this thing incredible. So.
Well, we're hopeful to be part of that, and we want to be a regular participant here and a regular sponsor here. So we're happy to.
I appreciate this.
Happy
support.
to jump on board.
Well, thanks so much, and it's an honor to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.